Here we go.
Sounds like a clapper.
Sounded good, actually. It sounded pretty. Guy, you look pretty casual today, kid. I mean, look at you.
Yep. Well, all I have to do now, Pete, is drive down to the lake. So yeah, I'm pretty much done as everybody else is too, because you know it's a half day today, folks.
Half day, and tomorrow off. It's an interesting week. I tell you what, it's a half day that feels a lot different than a half day, though. This thing is already cranking and rocking and rolling, and wow, I mean, unbelievable already.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the markets continue to digest what the Fed and rumors of Gary Gensler's demise, which please, oh please, let that be true. Let that worthless, crappy head of the SEC go away. I mean, what more could he screw up, Pete? He screws up FTX. He screwed up every crypto exchange that he was supposed to be overseeing, according to him, because they're, quote, securities, end quote. Well, if they're securities, freaking do your job. Do your effing job. Well, did he? No. Instead, he just takes meetings with Sam Bankman-Fried, and Sam throws hundreds of millions of dollars at one party. Again, I don't care if he was throwing it at the other party. It's still stupid, and somebody should have been looking into it. But let's talk about stocks, Pete. What a
the macro minute.
The guy's a complete poser. Yeah, the macro minute, my 30 seconds, I've already used up 15 of them, will be Gary Gensler is a freaking poser. The guy's never traded a crypto in his life. He's admitted that, and yet he thinks all of them, or most of them, are securities, and that's it.
Well, unfortunately, I just wish you were more passionate about it. Anyway, I'm going to jump to the macro minute with this, John. Okay. How about the engagement that we are having on a half day in front of a holiday, July 4th, and all of this? And the engagement today is better than it's been probably in the last month. I mean, people are trading, volumes are there, options are there, stocks are there. We've got incredible movement. And like I say, the engagement, what I mean by that is we are seeing a lot of trade. Normally, you get a day like this and you're just waiting for the bell. I mean, you're just going, please ring the damn bell. Not today. We got engagement.
Yeah, well, to Pete's point, folks, the NASDAQ, mainly on the strength of Tesla, just exploded to the upside, traded to like 13,840 or something like that, Pete. Right now, it's at 13,783. So it's given up a lot of points here, which is pretty darn interesting. And because of that, I think we should wrap up the macro minute and flip over to Fantastic Futures.
Let's do it.
Fantastic Futures.
That's really good, Jared.
So the Fantastic Futures on my side today, Pete, is sugar. It's up 27% year to date. It's up 3% today. And one of the reasons, there are some studies out there, Pete, that say aspartame, which is the substitute for most of us that take a non-sugared soft drink or something like that, it's got aspartame in it. Some studies say that aspartame is basically causing cancer.
That doesn't sound so great. Let me tell you something. Anybody with any intelligence at all should know one thing. When you've got fake something, it ain't good. It just isn't good. All right, real quick, I'm just going to hit you with this. How about nat gas? When we talk about energy all the time, when we talk about oil, we do talk about nat gas, but nat gas in the month of June absolutely exploded to the upside, up 17, 20%, something close to that, John, depending on exactly what the measure is that moment. But a really big run. Meanwhile, crude just kind of meandering around near that 70, somewhere between 68 and 72, call it. But now that we're going to see what this supply really looks like and what the demand really looks like, I think it's going to be very interesting to see, especially with another 1 million barrels coming off from OPEC starting July 1st.
Yeah, well, so in other words, it's started. Because we're already into July, folks. In fact, this is the 3rd. And as Pete has already said, it's only a half day of trade.
Hmm.
All right, let's talk, Pete, about some of the stuff that's really hitting today. Like at the top of the show, we mentioned Tesla because Musk pulled the rabbit out of the hat again. Tesla headed for their best one-day percentage gain since March. And since it's turned around in March, Pete, it's turned and burned to the upside. It has been on fire. And I hope that miserable you-know-what, Mr. Gates, is chasing it all the way up, because that guy, he claims to be all about the climate and this and that, and then he shorts Tesla.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, JP Morgan, some clown over there, Pete, another clown, basically took him and reiterated his underperform on the stock with a 120 target. Let's see, it's trading 280. How well has anybody been doing following this advice so far? Not so good.
John, that's one of those guys who's out there who's going to continue to have a sell rating on it, but he's going to raise it up from like 120 maybe to like 150 or something like that and go, yeah, it's still a piece of crap, but I was maybe a little early. We've had that so many times, and so many of these analysts are so terrible. I do want to say this. You and I have always gone by this sort of philosophy. We are going to follow the guys who are right, and the guys who've been right in specific names, those are the guys that we're going to follow, whether that's Apple or Tesla or Merck or whatever stock you want to pick. You got to find the people that actually are correct, that actually understand what the business model really looks like. And I guarantee you this JP Morgan analyst probably thinks Tesla is a car company. Well, they're not just a car company. They are an automobile company, but they're also everything else we've always talked about, which is why it's always had the PE that it's had. And yet these guys can't embrace it, John. They don't understand all the data. How about the battery stations? How about the solar? How about everything that goes into it? And yet, well, they're no different than Ford or GM. They're exactly the same. No, they're not. These guys are idiots. They haven't figured it out. And that's why you don't follow those guys. You might want to listen to a guy like Gene Munster, been pretty damn good in Tesla, or some of these others, but do not listen to the JP Morgan analyst here.
Nope, Pete's exactly right. And Pete, two other things on that. One, they don't have a dealer network. So somebody's not taking a spiff off of every Tesla that goes out the door. Tesla keeps that money. Number two, they don't have legacy. Again, I'm not bashing unions or anything of the sort. If you make a deal with somebody that you're going to pay them a certain amount of money, great. And if they get a pension, great. But Tesla doesn't have that overhang. Every car that GM sells, an awful lot of that supposed profit goes into paying those pensions. Again, as it should, but Tesla doesn't have that, Pete.
Right.
Lastly, take a look at, there was a big discovery in Norway. They claim that this deposit of these rare earths and so forth is enough for electric car batteries and fertilizers for the next 100 years. That's right. It's called a phosphate rock deposit, and they found vanadium and titanium and other rare earths in there. And that is another reason all these stocks are running. Speaking of which, Pete, Rivian, RIVN, exploding to the upside. And you know what? We had unusual activity. And it was last week and again today, Pete. We had unusual option activity. There it is on the screen, folks. Just look at it right there. Unusual option activity. You want to make some money? You follow smart money, like Pete said. You follow people who are right, and you take a look at where that unusual activity was. Where were they buying those calls, Pete? And where is that stock now? That's why you should go to marketrebellion.com/bang and get a BOGO. Buy one, get one free. That's marketrebellion.com/bang. You get 2 months for the price of one, because every time we hit one out of the park like this, we tell you about it. We say, come on in and try it. The water's fine.
Yep. And I'll tell you, John, the deliveries from Tesla, outrageous for the quarter. Deliveries for Rivian, outrageous for the quarter. That's what people are continuing to look at as these companies are coming, and they're just absolutely delivering. And across the way, all the way. I mean, they just continue on every aspect of what they're doing, and they're just getting a little bit better, a little bit better. The EV space, the AI space, those were huge drivers, and they continue to be drivers in the market. It doesn't mean that there's not other places. We all know that. We've seen the cruise ships moving. We've seen the airlines moving. We've seen the home builders moving. So there isn't just these six. I always like to point that out. But it's not just six stocks, John. There's a lot of different areas of the market that have actually been performing very, very nicely. And Rivian right there with Tesla having a really great day with those delivery numbers.
Yep. They were buying folks upside calls with the stock at 1660. Today, Rivian trades to the upside through 19. So you made a couple bucks if you traded the stock, but you know what? If you traded those August calls, you doubled your money today. How'd you like to make 100% from last Friday to today? That's what it did. And now they're buying more upside calls. And if you're somebody like me and Pete, who buys an at the money call and sells an upside call against it, guess what? You did even better with less risk.
Yeah.
And we can teach you about that. All right. That's a great one, Pete. I love that Rivian trade.
Yep.
And for all of you that had it, congratulations. This is one that not everybody talks about, Pete. Opera, O-P-R-A. It's an artificial intelligence play, and NVIDIA is one of the stocks that everybody talks about, and they should, because it's the fastest, best chip in the market for fast calculations. But this is a company based in Norway, and let me tell you what you get with them. They're an AI company. They're also a browser company. They are a crypto wallet company. They're everything wrapped up in one, Pete. So I know Microsoft is great, and they invested in the parent company of ChatGPT, which is AI. I know Google's great, and they have brought several AI or artificial intelligence products to the market, like Bard and things like that. But this one, man, it's up today, and it might be one of the hottest stocks of the year.
I would say it's got to be, if it's not the hottest, it's definitely getting pretty daggone warm, John, because everybody loves to look at NVIDIA, including you and I. It's up 187%. Not such a bad year for a company that now has $1 trillion market cap or something close to that. But you look at this company, they're up 207%. It had an unbelievable move. You're talking both of them. What's driving them? AI. And you look at Opera, you look at this name, what the Norwegians have done here. To your point, they've got all of these different other aspects of things. And when you're looking at that browser, they seem to have some advantages, John, over the biggest and baddest out there, whether it's Microsoft or Google or you name it, whoever. I mean, you're looking at some of these names and you say, well, what about this company? These guys seem to be in front of everybody else. And why? Because they are. They really are. So it's definitely worth. I love that you put this up there today, John. I think it's well worth it because I don't know how many people even know this company by name, but they should, because you want to be in the AI space. Clearly, this is a name that is powerfully leading everybody else.
Yep. It's up 9% today, folks. It's turning over 1.5 million shares versus 700,000 normal. It's closing in on a $2 billion valuation. And like Pete said, you want something that's going to move a lot? Well, it's tougher for that $1 trillion NVIDIA to make the kind of moves that this one, I think, will continue to make. All right. How about, Pete, AstraZeneca? We don't need to spend a lot of time on it, but unfortunately, their final phase study of a lung cancer treatment with a big Japanese company not working out so well. And for that reason, it's down 6%, 7%. It's closing in on a 9% loss. And for a big drug company to lose 9% is a big deal.
It is a big deal, John. And I'd also add to that, that when you look at this, this is one of the things that you and I, when we talk about a biotech company or a pharmaceutical company, at any point in time, people have to understand there are multiple levels that you've got to get across to get there, to get to the end. And phase one is great. Obviously, you got to start somewhere. Phase one is great. Phase two is outstanding. Phase three is when things start to get a little bit nerve-wracking, and you've got to get over that hump. And it doesn't seem like things went all that well with phase three. Clearly, a lot of what we're seeing today is based upon what happened They really didn't produce the kind of numbers that people were thinking or hoping and all the rest of that. Lung cancer, it's a big deal. But the problem is they just didn't quite have the numbers so far. Doesn't mean it's all over. It just means for now, they may have to go back and try to figure things out. But it's interesting, John. They've got some pain, but I would also say this. People get excited going into that phase 3. And obviously that next level after that, when you go in and you get that approval level, they're going to have to wait. It's not there right now, but that's why we're seeing the stock go back about 8%. If there's any positives that somebody can pull out of there, there might be something that going forward can get them over the line. We'll see if that happens. They're going to be working on it because these are investments. That's why these drugs cost so much. They spend hundreds of millions, if not billions, going and trying to get these drugs into the marketplace. So that's why when you get the failure at this point in time, that becomes a major issue for sure.
Absolutely. So, and just as Pete said, folks, time and time again, a lot of people buy the stocks that just come out of phase 3 approvals, or they're just into that phase 3 approvals. Companies like Bristol Myers Squibb, like AstraZeneca and so forth, Johnson & Johnson, they might come in there and buy one of those companies. But it's rare that a big failure like this hits without them trying to rejigger it and see what they can change about it. All right, Pete, give us a little sports and my favorite Serb. After the basketball player, this is my next favorite Serbian athlete.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Djokovic is absolutely unbelievable. And I think that, we always go into this 4th of July time of year and we start to think it's the one time where everybody starts looking and they say, well, what sports are going on? Well, there's really no football, no basketball, no hockey. Yeah, you've got some baseball, but it's Wimbledon, right? I mean, everybody always talks about it. Everybody talks about all the wonderful things. You want to know who's really dominating and is the GOAT of his sport. Is this guy, one of your favorite Serbians, John, what he has done for his career. Well, how about I just give you these numbers? He's been ranked number 1 389 weeks in the last 12 years. So I'd say he's doing something right. I'd say this guy has figured it out. And Nadal, Federer, those guys were great. This guy's better. This guy has absolutely dominated the sport. He took on those guys when he was a young teenager and then just started going through everybody and anybody who was in front of him, John. The guy has 23 majors and 38 masters. I mean, he has done absolutely everything and more than anybody else. He's the Michael Jordan of tennis. He's done it all. And he's got a heck of a shot again to take Wimbledon. Now, this is a guy who's got his principles. He's got his own system, does a lot of things that not everybody agrees with, but I will tell you this. As far as tennis goes, you cannot find a guy as good as this guy has played for so many years, multiple decades, and what he's done in this sport is unbelievable. It truly is because, we talk about all these other guys in different sports for all the right reasons, but we don't really talk a lot about tennis. But this guy, his athleticism and what he's been able to do for so long, it's unbelievable, John. And anybody who doesn't do this, I'm asking you, when you get a break, watch a little bit of Wimbledon. This guy is one of the most special players of all time, and it's definitely worthwhile. John, you know the name. You know these Serbs. They're so disciplined. It's unbelievable, and it just shows you how great these guys are and how hard they've worked to get where they are. I think this guy's amazing.
And he was, tarred with that brush, Pete, because he refused to take the jab. Yep. He said, nope, I'm plenty healthy. I don't need it. If I happen to contract COVID, my body will develop its natural immunity to it, and I'll go with that over any injection. Well, so they didn't let him play in a lot of tournaments, Pete. And that created a lot of haters for him. And all he did was win everywhere where he could still play. All he did was win. The guy's 36 years old. He's cleaning up on 22, 24, 26-year-old guys around the world. He's right now winning. He just won, Pete, in the first set, center court, of course. It had a rain delay today, but the guy is just amazing. And I love, just like you said, that he's not going to be cowed. He's not going to be forced to, oh, well, they say you can't come into this country or that country if you don't have the jab. Okay, their loss. I'll just go play somewhere else. And
Yeah.
all he does is win, Pete. 29 consecutive victories at Wimbledon, by the way. Now, that's not the title, but
Right.
that's 29, as you're making it through all the brackets all the way to the title. That means nobody plays with this guy.
He's special, man. He's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it really is. We should all appreciate guys like this. We talk about Ohtani all the time. I know I bring it up every day, but this guy is doing something very, very special. I'm not going to talk about Ohtani now. You know what I'm going to talk about? John,
What?
how about NFL camps? Because you know what? That's the other thing about July. That means the NFL is going to be back. It's not today, but July 18th, most training camps open up. From the 18th to the 25th, everybody will be open by the 25th. So the excitement is already starting to bubble. People are already starting to talk about teams and what they did and the draft and free agency and everything else. Here's my favorite thing about training camps, though. You've got these, 5 teams, John, that still go off to these small colleges the right way, in my opinion. Don't just go to where you are and let the players live wherever. Have them all together. Have them all have some camaraderie. So you've got Carolinas down at Wofford College. You got the Chiefs at Missouri Western. The Rams are at UC Irvine. Pittsburgh's at St. Vincent. And Buffalo's at St. John's Fisher University. That's the way to do it. By the way, if you listen to some of those different teams I just named, most likely teams that people are thinking will be in the Super Bowl. So these guys are doing it the right way. They're not just saying, you know what, we're going to do it at our facility. It's going to be the usual deal and everything and all the rest of it. But the thing that I find most interesting going into camp this year, John, Hard Knocks can't figure out who in the hell wants them to be in their camp. And when I say that, you'd think that these teams would be jumping for it, right? Hey, we'll take it this year. We'd love to do it. That's not the case. They're having a real struggle because a lot of the teams that are being asked to have them, they don't want them. And it is a little disappointing for you and I or whatever. I love watching Hard Knocks. I thought it was great last year with Detroit. I thought it was great when it was with Houston. I think it's always been fun, but the Jets really don't want to do it. They think it's too big of a distraction. They already got enough of a distraction with their quarterback. But, they've got a lot of different things about Hard Knocks that a lot of teams have said, you know what, we'd like to pass on this. We really don't want it, which probably is surprising to HBO and everybody else. What do you think? Do you think it is as big a distraction as these teams are kind of making it out to be, John? Or I will say this, as a fan, former player, but fan, I think it's awesome to be able to get in the locker room, see what these guys are doing. How does camp go? Not everybody makes it. Guys are getting cut, and people have to see the reality of how sad that can be and everything else. But what do you think, John? Is it a distraction that if you were the head coach, would you say, you know what, we'll see you maybe a couple of years from now?
If I were the head coach, I'd say no mas. Even though I agree with your assessment, Pete, and I think it's wonderful to see that human reaction to acceptance or rejection, because you see both sides of it. You see that person on the bubble. Is he going to make the team or is he cut like me? And if they're cut, that reaction is, that's what sells. That's what Andy Cohen is so damn good at, Pete, with the Real Housewives shows, because that's also the problem, though, is Andy Cohen and the Real Housewives shows, because people act before a camera.
Yeah.
We know it because we were on TV with people that don't trade but acted like they traded. Yeah, and you know who I'm talking about, too. There's a lot of them out there, Pete, that act like they trade and they don't really trade. There might be on the Real Housewives somebody that pretends she's really working out hard, but it's really Ozempic or whatever the hell that drug is that they're all taking to lose weight and things like that. So I think people do perform for the camera, and that's a distraction. I think that it could bubble up because, they want that friction, the headbutting and things like that. And just as you described at the top of that, when you go to a camp, that's when you become a team. Well, this is almost something that breaks the team up, because if there is some sort of a fight between this offensive lineman and that offensive lineman, they're both kind of angry and they're both trying to make the team and blah, blah, blah. That maybe they're not the guy that's getting 40 million a year to be that stud left tackle or whatever. Those folks could kind of drive a wedge between them rather than cementing that camaraderie that you want for a winning team. So I'm not surprised that a lot of the coaches and probably a lot of the player leaders on those teams say, you know what, if you want to make some extra money, go do a commercial for State Farm. You know, go out there and get a commercial with somebody, but don't do it because you had a fight here at camp and you ended up causing us to be distracted from, you know, what the goal is, to get to the Super Bowl and win it.
So here's the 4 teams that they really had it nailed. They had Chicago, New Orleans, Washington, and the New York Jets. And I don't know, but maybe Chicago might, you know, who knows? They're an up and comer. You and I talk about what they did in the offseason, what they did in the draft, how Fields has probably improved after that year last year and everything else. So that might be a damn interesting team if the Bears allow it to happen. That might be a pretty fun one, but it's funny. I mean, you'd think that everybody, I mean, I think generally the public would think, yeah, we want to be the Hard Knocks team. We want to be the hard. And all these coaches are like, nope, we don't want any more distractions. We just want to play football.
Yeah, Pete, I guarantee the Jets, there's no way they want anybody else in the locker room, no way anybody else other than who's already out there on the sidelines and things, and all the reporters that are on this. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is the biggest story in football right now.
Yeah,
he just is. Now, is he the greatest player? No, that's Mahomes. But he does have several MVPs, and he still has gas in the tank. I mean, look, Brady played until he was, what, 44, Pete? Or something like that? This guy's like a youngster compared to that. But he's the biggest story in football. So, yeah, I think people are going to be focused on him and the Jets. And if they win, oh, my God, he's in the biggest media center on earth. There will be so much focus on them. They don't need any other distractions.
I agree.
Well, speaking of distractions, we're going to go distract ourselves with some fireworks, folks. Be safe. Don't blow any fingers off or anything. You need them for typing on the keyboard, if not other things. And we'll see you on Wednesday, right back here, our usual time, 1 p.m. See you then.